I literally was so naive about business that I didn't know the words corporation. I had never heard the word entrepreneur. And I've really experienced the last year the difference between growing and being busier and having a good brand versus true scaling.
All right, guys. Well, hey, I am here with my friend Lindsey Kirby, and Lindsey owns Sculpt Wellness or Sculpt Tri-Cities Wellness over in, where are you at again? You're in Washington, right?
Yeah, Tri-City. I mean, where nobody knows, Tri-Cities, Washington.
And Lindsey and I have become friends over the past year, and she is kind of a mover and a shaker in the cryo wellness space. But I'm just always really impressed with what you guys do with branding and marketing, and just how you guys have really taken your clinic and turned it into a community, so to speak. So, kind of tell me, what is your background? How did you get into the space?
First of all, thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Likewise, I admire you so much. I love all that you're doing, and I love your perspective on wellness and marketing. So yeah, thanks for having me. My background is a nurse, actually, traditional healthcare, labor and delivery nurse for over 10 years. So grew up in a teeny little farm town in Eastern Washington. Grew up between two towns that were less than 500 people.
Oh, wow.
Like tiny. Yeah, I didn't even get to grow up in the town. I grew up in the middle of a wheat field.
So how do you transition from small town labor and delivery nurse? I didn't know you were medical. I thought you were just on the business side. How do you transition to now getting into this wellness alternative, whatever you want to call it, space?
Exactly. It was part of it is who I am at the core. I went into nursing because I love helping people. I mean, I was the kid that everyone thought was going to be a doctor. I had that identity from a very young age, but I also was kind of the weirdo kid that was out in the pasture, like analyzing how nature interacted with the animals. I've always had that mind of being very intuitive about how our bodies interact with things and how nature interacts with things. So I've always had that like more natural inclination. And so when I got into traditional healthcare and became a labor and delivery nurse, of course, I'm like working for the hospital, and which is actually a corporation. But it's so funny because when I went into nursing, I can't tell you that I knew the word corporation and what that really meant. Like I was so in a not a mean way, but I literally was so naive about business that I didn't know the words corporation. I had never heard the word entrepreneur, and it was never in my ability to comprehend someone like me, like starting their own business. So I have, like, when you're asking me about my background, like I have zero background, and I wasn't, I didn't grow up thinking like with that entrepreneur spirit. I grew up thinking like I'm going to be a doctor or a nurse, and I became a nurse. So, yeah, how I got there is an interesting story for sure. And it can help some people along the way. Essentially, I took a huge leap of faith. Like that traditional entrepreneur, you have to be willing to make risk and sacrifice. But really what I saw and did, and the reason I got into the wellness space was as a nurse, number one, started personal for me. So have you owned the gyms, I know, but have you ever like clocked in for people like, and been owned?
I have. I relate to the nurses in this space so much because I worked for corporate gyms for so long, and I was in the physical therapy space for a while. So it's the same thing. It's just like no one's getting better. It's just tedious. Everyone hates it, and you couldn't give people what they wanted.
Yes. Yeah. And that's what, like, I loved being a nurse. I loved being at the patient bedside. What started to wear me down was I wanted Christmas off and I was told no. And I have 3 kids, and then I had started working night shifts when I was 15. I started working in nursing homes. So by the time I was 30, I technically had been working night shifts for 16 years. So it wasn't like I hadn't put in my time. And so, but, in the latter of things, I was young, but I didn't feel young anymore. It was like I woke up one day and I felt like complete crap. And I realized that the athlete in me was completely gone. I had little kids and I was being not a best mom that I always imagined myself being. Like I was so tired and burnt out that I would lay on the couch and watch them playing outside and not be out there with them. I was drinking for stress instead of doing healthy things for stress. But here I am in healthcare, right? So what actually started is I felt like complete crap. And so I needed something for me that and diet and exercise wasn't the answer because I was feeling so icky. Like I couldn't just go kill myself in the gym because I was so tired. And so this was back in 2011. It's a long time ago, technically. And I stumbled across, yeah, exactly. In 2011, I stumbled across, my friend was doing a cleanse, and that's what they called it then. And so she felt great. So I tried it. Long story short, I was doing network marketing without realizing it. Uh, but this cleanse, it also turned out to be essentially intermittent fasting, but back then nobody called it that yet.
Yeah, you got to stick to these hours and stuff.
Right, which is marketing, right? It's like cleanse, detox, have more energy. That's how they sold it. They didn't sell it as intermittent fasting, right? And for me, it spoke to, I just want to feel better and hear my friend feel better. So that's honestly, that led down a road of me discovering when you get into network marketing, you go to events, you hear personal development, you start to hear the vision of potentially like, you know, starting your own side hustle or being your own boss. So that just led me down that road for quite a few years, and I did well in it naturally. And it helped me grow that, just expanded my vision and exposed me to things I would have probably never been like even dreamed of doing. So that's how I essentially got into wellness and on like the concept of doing your own thing.
I think there's it's interesting you say that, because like I see you, and again, we've never had like deep talks on this. I see you as such a business, personal development person, more so than even the medical side, maybe.
Right.
But it's interesting to, I think a lot of the people that are watching this that have gotten to the clinic space, and we preach this, is like, you do have to shift. Like you spent your whole life learning medicine, doing these things, and like that's important. But to really grow into business, you have to learn a whole new skill set. And without it, I think that's the foundation for the next step.
You know, and I've been thinking a lot about this because our wellness, Sculpt Wellness, our business we have 2 locations, and I've really experienced the last year the difference between growing and being busier and having a good brand versus true scaling. And that kind of happened to me about a year and a half ago. Going into 2023, I really realized that I did not, and why would I? I've never done it before. And like I said, I don't have any technical business background, but I actually did not know and have the data and the tools and the how to truly scale, like growing leaders, creating systems, doing what worked at one location based off of a really, you know, a heart-centered place and word of mouth and things like that. But like really saying you can go and repeat that somewhere else. I learned the hard way. That's not as easy as it sounds.
A parent whose firstborn kid is like so good and just sits quietly, like, oh, I know everything about parenting. And then the next one comes.
Exactly. That's such a good analogy. And just and then you have 2 and you think you know what to do, and the third one comes and they're totally different. Yeah, it's just like that. And so I think one of the things I've always done well is recognize what I don't know. And I always am willing to lean into and want to be coached in what I don't know that I don't know, you know? And so I've along the way done a lot. You always hear about people reinvesting back into the business. I probably even more so am always reinvesting into my abilities, and always essentially wanting to be torn apart about what I'm not good at yet, and for where I want to go, right? Because you can't, what got you here won't get you there.
I mean, you just said it's like, what made you 6 figures won't make you 7. And I think for a lot of people watching, there's a lot of people that are maybe at your stage, but some that are getting ready to, or they want to franchise, they want to do, I always just say this, you cannot underestimate the value of just your presence in the business day to day. Like, even though you're like, oh, I don't do anything there anymore, you being there is so different than when that place doesn't see you for 3 months at a time. And I just always encourage people, before you open that second location, try it for 3 months. You be out for 3 months. And if you're profitable still, then maybe you're ready.
It's so true. And that's what I started. That's interesting that you say that. I naturally started to do that. And I did a lot of going to retreats and I was part of masterminds in 2023. And so I was gone quite a bit. And that was challenging because, you know, I had goals and things like that, but I realized that there was also not enough of me in the business for some of the things that I was wanting when I was gone. And so I did have to I had to slow down to speed up. And it was like, okay, like we have 2 locations now. You guys should be able to run without me. But what I realized is there was still a lot of times that they needed me in there, because they hadn't been to that level yet. We hadn't had 2 locations yet. And as the visionary and as the core of like where the brand comes from and how we talk and our tone and how we market and sell, that always does come back to me and my take on that. That's one of my strengths, is essentially listening to the consumer and what they want. And we built our brand around really listening to our clients. And I have a team that's amazing at that. But as far as like tracking the conversion of that and tracking where the leads were coming from and that retention, that's not the employee's job. If no one's set that up yet, that's not their job to worry about that. And so I realized, and that's why I always reached out to you, because you have such a good perspective about, it's very expensive to get someone in the door. And what you do when they do come in is so important. And training your team on that is 10 times as important, because you can't be there for everyone interaction.
I think so. I want to touch on something, because I've screwed this up so many times, but I think as owners, and especially if those of you who are like me and Lindsey, who are entrepreneur, we read books, we personal develop, we want to be broken down. That's not normal. And you can't expect that of your people. And a mentor of mine, I come from the fitness space. He said, like, if you've been in the gym every day and you can squat 500 pounds, you can bring in some person with a ton of potential that loves exercise, loves working out, but you can't put your weight on them. You would never expect that. But we do that. We hire a manager sometimes. We hire someone and they're like us, they're similar to us, and we just expect them to flourish, when it's like, no, you're going to have to spot them. You're going to have to slowly add the weight on. And I like to go fast, and so I don't always do that. And when you put that in perspective, I was like, oh, they can't lift what I lift. And maybe they never will, and that's okay. So that's just something I always wanted for anyone out there who's hiring staff. Ease into it. You've been doing this and it's your baby. They're just coming in to babysit for a little bit. So they're not going to kill themselves the way we will.
That is such a good analogy. I definitely I've never thought of it that way. And that's a really great analogy. And I have to say, like, I learned that the hard way. I expected too much without helping them, showing them the vision. But you can cast vision. I'm a very passionate person. I am a visual dreamer, and I can see where we're going. But for me to be able to see it, but then to break it down into tangible, it would be like the analogy of like, this is literally how you put the weight on the bar, and not telling them to use the clip. Like sometimes that's what we do. We're like, hurry up and just get there, but we don't to stop and break it down. And so that's what I've learned a lot about my design, is I'm not going to slow down to explain the details. So I've, over the last year, specifically sought out and hired people that are detail oriented, and their job is to slow me down.
Sorry, I didn't interrupt. Have you ever done the Colby-A index? Are you familiar with that?
No.
So, and we're just going off random here, but the Colby-A index is a personality test. I love personality tests, but this one for hiring, I think, is the best. And I will give credit. I'm going to space out on my friend's name here. The owner of Morosco Forge is a good friend of mine. He's the one that turned me on to this. But the idea is there's 4 indexes. It's quick start, essentially learning, follow through, and attention to detail. And I'm screwing this up, guys. Go look it up. But like, shockingly for me, I love to learn. So learning, I'm really good at learning. I'm really good at teaching. So I'm heavy on that one. I'm really good at quick start. I'll start a business. I'll get an idea. I don't need to overanalyze. I'll go into it. So those are like a solid. My follow through and my attention to detail, not so much. But in the past, I made the mistake of hiring people who were like me, and we're like, yes, like you and I are the same. Like, we've learned this working together in business. I'm like, you don't call me. I'll call our people that are better at this.
Yep.
I've learned I have to hire people that complement me. But then the other thing I've learned, and I'll use this test to assess, is they do have to have a little bit of my traits, though, because if they're too detail oriented, then they resist change, they fight. And so it's a really good test. It's like $50, but I'll tell anyone, if you have a good candidate, you take it for yourself, and then you have them take it and see, do they complement, because it will make all the difference in the world. And it's just how they're wired to work.
That's really interesting. I've not heard of that one. Most of the work I've done is with Tracy O'Malley and the Enneagram, but and I haven't done it for the team yet. We plan on it. It's so insightful that I did like a 6-month coaching with her, because the Enneagram, there's 7 different levels, and it's what drives you and it's your motivator. And it's also where you learn kind of like what are your Achilles and what will sabotage, and like where you go under stress. That's maybe not your best, you know, like actions, reactions, those type of things. And that's helped me so much. It's helped me also realize, it just happened last week. We rolled out some changes in the business, and it doesn't mean I don't do it, but I was able to recognize, oh, I'm in my unhealthy stress reaction.
What's your
So
number?
it helped me pause.
What's your number in your wing?
I am I always forget this.
I guess you're a 3-2 if I had to guess, or a 2-3.
Good. 3-9.
So typically you have your main number, which is like I'm the
Yeah.
wild and crazy 3, but then I have
Yeah.
a nurturing coaching perspective. I love to help people. So I'm at 3-2. So normally you're on one side of it, but then the problem is in stress. So like I'm a 3. When I'm stressed, I become a 9. And that means all of a sudden I'm taking naps, I'm unmotivated, I'm lethargic, I'm just kind of like, I don't care, I'm apathetic. And I can recognize like, hey, something's not right. Like you can work 15-hour days most days, and now you're taking a nap at like noon. And so
funny.
that stress.
I'm a 7-3-9.
7-3. Okay, so you're a 7. You have that crazy spontaneous.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a nerd on this too, by the way. So we can totally geek out on this. I will say, guys, I actually have a training. I didn't even think about this. I built a training. I don't know if it's in our clients group and our free group on using the Enneagram to manage staff.
Really?
Because I'm just passionate about it. But once you understand your staff and you know what motivates them, what are they scared of? That's a big one. Like, what are they fearful of?
Yes.
Then treat them different. Or my wife, for instance, she's a 7, but in stress, she becomes a 1. So if I see her getting very critical or very like nitpicky, I can step back and take myself out of this and go, hey, are you okay right now? Versus if I didn't know that, I'd be like, she's just being you know what? So it helps you to manage your staff and know where they're at, but also use their strengths. Like the 3 is going to be loud and person. The 1 or the 5, like we have a guy on our team that's a tech guy. He would never get on a podcast like this. Like he would be here just like, so knowing that about them helps a ton.
It is. It's been super insightful. I can't wait to lean into. I had so much work to do that I had to spend the first coaching part of it just on me, because it was a new world to me, but it also it helped me feel understood. As a 7 and a visionary and entrepreneur, sometimes you build beliefs and maybe have been told throughout your life that you don't complete things, that you're on to the next, that you jump around, that you aren't a finisher, or that you're jump on trends, things like that. And that's kind of what happened to me. I mean, back in 2016, I had been doing the side gig of nutrition, health coaching. This was probably during your launching your gym days, when the Beach Body, next protein powder was the next best thing, and what 12-week diet cleanse was the next best thing. That was what we had in the weight loss world at the time, was the gym 6-week program or what diet program your friend was selling. and I was one of those chicks. And then I did some traveling, and in my travels for that nutrition company and network marketing, I discovered red light therapy. And I was like, wait, what? And the red light therapy I discovered was the lipolites, where you put them on your skin and actually dumps the fat. And they were being sold as competitive to liposuction. And I was so skeptical that I was like, that makes no sense. Like, I'm a nurse, and and I'd never heard of red light. And so then I tried it, and fell in love with it, and I could sense that it did something for my body. And so I became pretty obsessed with it. I went down that rabbit hole of, why have I never heard of this? This intuitively and naturally makes sense to me, because it's a natural light spectrum they're just harnessing. And I thought it was the coolest thing ever. And I didn't understand why everyone didn't know about it. And that's how I launched Sculpt Wellness. Is I got a used red light machine and launched a weight loss clinic with red light therapy in 2016, and people thought I was bat poop crazy.
You were probably one of the first one, because now they're everywhere, but you were probably one of the early adopters on that.
Very much. I mean, I'm telling you, when people thought I was crazy, it's one of my favorite stories now. I had someone this last year, I was speaking to the Chamber of Commerce into a room of 300 women. And I was talking about how in 2016, people thought I was crazy. but how red light is so important, and you can get it from the sun, like you, and all these things. And someone came up to me after my talk and said, you know, you were saying people thought you were crazy. She goes, I was one of them. She goes, I literally remember when you launched your business, you came to us, we owned a CrossFit gym, you shared your vision with us and how it could help our athletes, and you did this great presentation, and we believed in you because you're so passionate, but you left, and my husband looked at me and said, that girl is crazy, and this business model will never make it. And now, like, their CrossFit gym has cryotherapy, their CrossFit gym has compression and red lights and all the things, you know? And so I remember that was the best compliment that anyone's ever given me. It was like, they actually did think I was crazy. And I left, and I was driving home from that a few months ago, and I thought, that's so, you know, all this time I worried that people thought I was crazy, and I worried, you know, and I wanted to convince everybody that this made sense. And it's like, I kind of woke up one day and I realized, it's let them think you're crazy. Like, you might just be speaking to them someday, you know, and that you have to stand firm in the vision, and then, you know, figure out when you need to get tactical. And so you have to, there's a lot of moving parts, obviously. But to be a trailblazer and an early adapter, you have to hold on to the vision really tight and also be very convicted, right? And so I've always been so convicted that the red light therapy, the cold therapy, it made sense to me. And I think my nursing background helped me realize that what healthcare was offering the consumer wasn't cutting all of their needs. You know, people, just getting a prescription isn't always enough.
Sick care. It's not well care. It's not health care.
Yeah, and we all know that. And but I saw that early. And then I went into the diet and exercise only model, and I saw where that wasn't meeting all their needs. And so I really just saw that. And now we have over 40 services. I mean, we have all the things, the functional medicine, the semaglutide clinic, all those things. And we launched semaglutide 2 years ago. So we were ahead of that trend as well. So I do tend to see things coming. That's probably my strength. But I've had to really learn, and I've grown to 7 figures, multiple 7 figures now, 2 locations, with having to lean in what I'm actually weak at and slowing down to speed up. And so that's what we're really fine tuning right now, is the details, the plan. And there's a difference between revenue and profitability too.
Never had that lesson.
If you're watching this, you know that painfully, maybe. So, yeah.
You said something about, you know, not having, kind of like not caring what people think. And I think what's interesting is, especially those of you guys in the wellness space, which we know it's new, right? Like I'm good friends with Micah, for you guys do ozone therapy. I love ozone, but I've posted about ozone and people are like, you're draining your blood into a bag. This is nuts.
Right.
But especially if it's your business, guys, and you're passionate about it, do not be scared to post to your own socials. Don't worry what your friends and family is. The people that are going to be naysayers and commenters are not the ones that are going to pay your kids, you know, tuition for their dance school. And so get it out there, and just know too, if people are being negative, I always love people, they'll say, oh, my friend comments every time something negative. Cool. It's more engagement. Like, don't worry about that stuff. It's okay.
Yes. Yeah. Negative. I mean, it creates curiosity. It creates the opportunity to address what everybody might be thinking anyways, you know, and that's how we've led also with the GLP-1, you know, click the fear mongering and all the things that are going on with that right now, is we actually love it. And we're like, bring it on, because we actually do want to talk about it. Because most of the people that are saying those things that are negative, number one, like you said, they're probably never going to do it anyways. But what it does is it creates the opportunity of, you might not realize what people are saying out, and, you know, because you think it's cool. Not everyone to your face is going to say those things, but sometimes trolls are a blessing, because it helps you recognize like what people might be thinking, if they are like, think it's weird or a little nervous, and it helps you can create great marketing campaigns. I mean, that's how you can just be like, what are our objections that we need to address up front? You know,
I'm like, my brain's going so many directions right now, so I want to bring it in, but going back to your red light clinic.
Yeah.
Is it just you working the clinic to start off?
No, me and my stepdaughter that was 18. And I remember we didn't know how to answer the phone when the phone first rang the first time. Like, and I had just launched this coupon ad because I had no money, like no money. It was a single mom, no money, and led with a coupon. It was like Groupon at the time, and it was a come in for $49, and I would convert them to $2,400 packages.
Okay. So I just want everyone to hear that. And that was why I asked that, because like I know her sales team, we've done trainings before, but if you've never done it yourself, it is so hard to manage your team to do those things, because you at least have that, like, I know it can work. And now,
Oh,
I mean, you had red light. Now you have, we said 40 modalities.
yeah.
Like, you know that you're worth so much more than that. And that's the same thing. Nutrition. I used to sell nutrition packages for 2,500. I didn't have any GLPs. I didn't have any medication, all that. It's like, people are willing to pay for it as long as you're confident you get them a result. I want to hammer that
Yes.
home to everyone watching.
And you know what is really interesting too, is here it was 2016 and I launched with the name and our original logo, I'll send it to you, was Sculpt Weight Loss. But what we were doing was red light therapy, right? And so, but I was so confident in how it worked, but I wouldn't sell it. The coupon wasn't come do red light therapy. You know, it was come do a 4-week lose up to an inch program. And so then I did every single consult for almost 2 years where I had to convert. And, but I also started to have some of my other team, I started to practice letting the team members do the consults too. Because I knew that I wanted to be able to not be there some days, right? And so I didn't hold on too long, and I allowed that to kind of start to practice duplication and practicing like because I realized I was naturally converting and doing these consults well, but I didn't know what I was doing. You know, so to stop and explain it, I couldn't do it yet. And so that made me, and that was really important too. You want to do it and you want to be in there, but you don't want to micromanage too much too.
I want to be really tactical on this because I want to give people some takeaways on this. So things I have, and I want you to add to this real quick. One, there's a big piece about conviction, because we talk about these unmeasurables, right? You can't measure your presence in the clinic. She was doing this. She learned about it. She had a conviction. So she could say the same thing as somebody else. But when you have conviction about something, it just comes across. And if you have staff, or even yourself, or if you're newer to offering whatever service it is, if you haven't seen it work, it's just harder. You're going to sell less. But like, you were in it every day. You watch people's lives get changed. And so you could sit there and be like, this is worth every penny. And I'm just encouraging all of you guys, if you have staff that doesn't believe it, put them on the product, put them on the service, put them on the thing, let them feel it. Because, and I know you do this at your place, but conviction is so powerful.
You know, and I just heard Ed Milet say something that really struck a chord with me. And it even applies to parenting. He said, you know, usually a business fails or an owner quits or a parent quits when you stop selling the vision. And we think that we've sold it over and over and over. We don't realize how we don't sell the vision enough. And what I've realized is I've realized that you have to be able to, probably if your team is working for you and you're in wellness, it's because they really do want to help people. So we have been workshopping with our team. First, we start with why we're doing what we're doing. And we start with our core values and what we want to build the brand around. And I asked the team, like, what makes you proud to work here? What are your favorite moments with the client? And we start from there, and we share like wins, share stories, outcomes that make us really proud and happy. And we always start there. And then we whiteboard it, whatever, Post-it note it on a big piece of paper. And then, so, you start from that foundation, and then I say, okay, and you guys all, like, you don't want to stay stuck in the job you're in now. Like, you want to grow and feel like a professional and feel like an expert and eventually manage and lead. And in order to get there, that's more money. And so if we don't want to be like, our core values are, we want to lead people, we want to be with them on the journey in their wellness. That means that taking care of people and not being a quick salesperson and not feeling like a icky salesperson means that you are listening to people and you're sharing the journey of what they can do. Just because they bought cryo doesn't mean you want them to do their 10 cryo and then never see them again. Like, you're saying that you actually want to be this person's leader. And so I related to the team in KPI terms and what we need to focus on, what I'm going to ask you to track. That's called retention.
Wow.
But what I realized is it's not, why would they know that? like sometimes we throw out these terms like KPIs and tracking, and I need these reports from you, but we're not casting the vision on why or where that relates to the core values and how that's impacting and transforming people's lives.
You just made me think about something. So I think we always talk about like retention for, you know, a client comes in and how long do they stay? But what you just said applies at all levels. It's us to our team are our clients. So we have to cast the vision. You have to resell them. I hate to use that term, but like when you're, what do you want? What are your goals? We're going to resell them on it constantly.
Constantly.
And it's little questions throughout the week. It's on your meetings. You have to take time to have those one-on-ones and those consults essentially. And you need to do the same thing with your clients. And the people that tell me they don't have time to meet with their team also have a really low retention rate of their teammates. And the people that don't have time to meet with their clients and to do that vision and cast the vision for them, because your person comes in and they might think, well, I came in to lose 20 pounds, lost 20 pounds, I'm done.
Totally.
You didn't help them create a vision or a goal longer term. And so you need to do that at both levels. And I don't know, I just hadn't put those two together before.
Exactly. Yeah. And I hadn't either. And it kind of just happened. And we went through the workshop because we weren't seeing the crossover from just weight loss to our other services. And so when we started from that foundation, but our team was feeling so busy and like they didn't have time to talk to these clients. And so starting from the foundation and casting the vision of why are we doing this? Like, why are we even showing up every day? And why are we, doing, trying all these different leads and programs and things like that, when we really just want to take care of the people we already have the most. Of course, we always need new people in, but that's not what we want to build on, is always new, always new, always new. We want to keep the people we have. And our data showed that actually last year, we didn't have a great crossover or retention. And so I cast that vision to the team that what does that actually mean? It means that we're not actually listening and taking time to have those conversations and to lead the client. Because if we were, they would be excited to try other things and they would understand how, right? And so you can attach the data and the core values is something I'm really learning. And it's weird, but it just happened. And I have like a system for it now. And it's been I'm so excited for this year because I always heard KPIs and what you should be tracking and data and all that thing. And it was always really frustrating to me too, because it felt kind of negative, and it was like, my team's not doing enough and we're not selling enough. We're not retaining enough. And does that mean I need to be in there selling more? It's like, no, actually probably just not casting the vision of what that means and like how they can get there, not only for your team, but for the clients too.
Well, I think something I hear from a lot of owners and people, even just, every kind of business I consult with is, we don't have time, right? Or it would be too expensive for me to pay all my staff to be in a meeting, which like you guys are super heavy on training. But one of the clients that I consult with, we did this with they do more Medicare based, but they're providers that do conversions. And we spent 2 hours a week on training with them and their conversions went up 20%. Well, you do that times 150 consults at a $7,000 Medicare reimbursed procedure. That was the best money we could have ever spent. Like we didn't need to spend more on leads. We didn't need to spend more on that. It was just doing the same stuff better. And so for those of you guys have a team, like invest in them, sharpen the axe. If you guys know that analogy, spend the time on it.
Yeah. And I can say that is how I went from 6 figures to 7 is all of that. And it feels slow, but you can look back and see where it just starts to really, the return on investment is there. And you start to attract better employees as well. People can see that from the outside looking in. Since I started, and we use that as marketing too. We record when we're doing trainings. We record when we're sending our team to, trainings with you. We record when we send them to CryoCon or, the IV bash. And we are using that just as much as part of our marketing. To show even our clients, like on our Instagram and things like that, you'll see we post a lot of like when we're doing that investment in the team. And I have seen that pay off for the type of players we can attract as well.
I'm gonna say that for me, when I had my gyms, I loved education. And so like, we wouldn't always pay the best, like we weren't cheap, but we couldn't afford, these 6-figure salaries. But I'm like, you will not get better education anywhere else. Like you will learn, and if they're passionate about it, they will take that trade off any day of the week.
Yes. Yep. Exactly. Yeah.
So let me ask you this, going into, we just talked about cross-selling. So let's kind of go there. What are some things that you guys are seeing that work well together, or like tactically, like if you're in your clinic, how would I see this being put in action?
So one of the things that we realized is for the higher ticket items, let's say for weight loss, prescription weight loss, or for body sculpting, what we found is the clients aren't naturally, during that high ticket program, they're not naturally going to buy a lot of the other things like detox sauna or cryotherapy. So and this might be what a lot of people already do, but we realized we weren't actually adding that as value adds for the program. So it used to be, we would sell them the prescription weight loss program and try to explain to them, you should do cryo and sauna too. It's going to help you feel better and actually lose weight faster and tighten your skin as you go. But they wouldn't want to do anything else or pay more for something else. So we pivoted and just made that a part of our weight loss program and added that value. And then that gets them exposed to it. And we have seen a much better conversion to them becoming like wellness, like cryo sauna members, or doing more of it. And trying other things, because we're telling them essentially they need to, because our medical director, laid out this really beautiful, like there's case studies on doing 20 cryo, you lose an inch off your abdomen on menopausal women. We like are explaining the why, and encouraging them to do it and getting them exposed to it without saying, and also pay us more. And like we're there in the clinic anyways, they're coming in to do their check-ins. It's like jump in the cryo sauna, but it's just part of your program. And so we're leading with that actually is what sets us apart from someone too, that's a med spa down the street that only has certain things. They're not able to sell their weight loss program and give all these extra bonuses of these wellness services. So it really sets us apart in what makes us unique. And that's helping us stand out in this market of everybody and their mother wanting to sell prescription weight loss, right? So, thinking about what you have that might be a hard conversion and just adding it to programs that do sell well, and introducing clients to it and advertising, that's what sets you apart.
Well, also, I think something that I've seen from some of the other clinics and yours included is people don't associate sauna or cryo with weight loss, but if they go and feel it, because they're there for weight loss, they only want that. But if they feel it and they're feeling better at the end of the program, they'll continue, because they'll associate it. Even if it wasn't the biggest loser, they'll go, oh, I lost weight when I was doing this. And so it's easier to keep that habit going. But if you're trying to sell them on it, you get one chance on that, so to speak. So just, put it together. I love that.
Exactly. And then that's part of when they do get to their goal, and we have a maintenance program. Part of their ongoing maintaining their goal weight includes the cryo and sauna. And it gives you the opportunity to explain why. And like you said, explain that. And so that helps with the education and having the time to explain that without having it be another sell, but essentially they're being sold along the way. Right. And then they're telling their friends and family, they're bringing a friend to try the cryo with them.
So that was going to be my next question is, I feel like one of the things everyone gets into this space right now, that they want to open a medical weight loss clinic and they're like, I'll just get a prescription and it's done. I'm finding that the clinics that have the best communication with their patients throughout the program make the most money. So how does that communication, if I become a patient tomorrow, how are you communicating with me, talking to me? What interactions are we having at your clinic?
Yeah, you don't have the choice to come in and do body composition. And it's so awesome for me how, back to the red lights, and selling a $2,400 package in 2016 for 12 light sessions, 12 20-minute red light therapy sessions. I learned very quickly, if you don't hold accountability, the perception is they're not getting results because people can't see it on themselves. And weight loss, if you want to coach and sell weight loss, it is a whole can of worms that you better be ready for, because you're bringing out psychology issues, you're bringing out, food, relationship issues. There's a lot of dynamics to weight loss. It is so much more. If it was just the number on the scale, I don't think we'd have even weight loss clinics. We wouldn't have the problem, because weight loss is so much more than the number on the scale. And so back in 2016, I realized very quickly, I didn't make it an option. If you were going to invest that much money in yourself, I'm going to require that you're going to allow me to show you how you're getting the results, because I know that you're not going to know how you're getting the results. You've never done red light before. You've never done these prescription meds before. It's our job to show you where you're getting the results. So that doesn't mean that you get to come in and do a check-in if you want to. You invested in yourself. It's our job to show you the results. So you have to. You have to come in every 4 weeks and do a body scan. You have to sit with a practitioner that sits there and tells you how to read that scan. We're not going to let you read the scan because you're going to pick out what didn't work. So you have to lead and be a little bit stern, or a lot of stern sometimes with some clients. And we just tell people that don't like that model, if you just want the drug, but you don't want accountability, our program is not for you.
That's, I think it might even be your team. We talked about, like, we open up every consult with like, hey, this program is all about lasting transformation. If you just want cheap medication, we're probably not from you. And like, set the tone.
Yes. Yep. And, a lot of that comes from, because people, you want to be careful with pictures if they do have body images. Well, of course we're sensitive to that. But that doesn't mean that they still don't come in and do a check-in, right? Like you can tailor it, not be like a complete hard ass, but yeah. So we aren't just handing it out and saying good luck and mailing them the prescription. That's not who we are. So it's a lot of someone that invests in our program is coming to us in person. We do have a distance program and we still get great results, but same thing, they still have to do the check-ins virtually, on Zoom. We're not just seeing someone on a Zoom and sending them this prescription over the next year. And it's crazy how many clients we get that have tried those online programs because they're cheaper, but they don't get their results.
There's so much more to weight loss than just appetite suppressant. We talked about it.
It really is, yeah.
You said something about like having that sternness. And I always tell people in the business, you're a coach now. Like everyone, if you're doing this, even on body sculpting, all these things, you're a coach. You're not just a provider anymore. And for a coach, they have to know, like, and trust you. And my old mentor used to do this story of like, if you're hiring a nutrition coach and she's like, you had cupcakes, it's okay, we all make mistakes. Like, you might like her, but you probably don't trust her. But then it can't be like the Terry Crews, like, all right, mother effer, we're going to do burpees until you throw up. Cause like, you might trust him, but you don't like him. So you've got to be that bridge gap where, hey, I'm going to be stern. And I don't you made me think about this. I remember this lady one time I was doing a consult and she was 70, 80 pounds overweight. And she said something like, oh, I'm just the fat mom or something like that. And she laughed about it. And I don't know what it was, but I said, don't laugh about that. It's not funny. Like, this is serious. And I felt like kind of a dick, but like she needed that in that moment to be like, oh, this place is serious. Cause that was like her defense mechanism. And there was so much psychology in that, but people want that. They're craving the accountability. And, to your point, we used to do a program called Fit in 42, where you had to do a workout every day for 6 days a week for 42 days. And we had a rule on it. If you missed a workout, it was $75. And people loved that. That was like a selling feature. I'm like, all right, here's where you're going to sign. You're going to get charged 70. I never charged it once, but like, but they like that because I'm going to say this very carefully. Most people come into your program, guys. It's not that they don't trust your program. They don't trust themselves.
Oh,
and so you've got to show them how you're going to help them get past themselves to get results.
Absolutely. That is, drop the mic.
We're done.
Over. It's so good. It's so true. That's really it. Yeah.
All right. Well, I love weight loss, but I don't want to stay here too long. So you love paint and vision. What do you see are going to be the trends coming to 2024 in this wellness space? There's so many cool tools coming out. I'll be at CryoCon with you here pretty soon, I'm sure, as we'll see all the new stuff. But what do you see down the pipeline?
I felt like this for a long time, so I don't know if it's finally going to hit the way I see it coming in 2024. I think it's getting closer, but the frequencies, things like biocharger, the Vimy bed, things like that, brain tap. And it's so funny because actually I had the red light and brain tap in 2016, essentially brain training. Because for me in the future, what I see is the recognition that you are what you think, and that there actually is biohacking ways to help improve what you're thinking and decompress too. People are under a lot of stress. What? And so I think understanding that and telling people, like, we know how much stress you're under. And we just had our quarterly medical team powwow 2 days ago, and that's what our medical director was talking about, is we were took some of our case studies that maybe aren't losing as much, or they're taking longer to get there. And she really, when we looked at like who those clients were, she feels like the number one key factor is stress, or self-talk type things. And so I think going, now that we have, I think one of the greatest breakthroughs in all time of medical history is GLP-1s. I think they're amazing. And I think the peptide game is just starting, and it will actually become more preventative. So what is also going to happen, and this is my invite to all of the wellness owners, is speak like, act like, and know you actually are the new healthcare. This is what's coming. Wellness prevention will be the new healthcare model with the combination of AI, peptides, DNA. It will know, it is going to shift, and we will be the experts. So start having that posture and practicing like that, training your teams. That's how you're talking. That's how you're marketing, is you are experts. And this is healthcare, WellCare, it's not just cool biohacking things. That's what I see coming. Like the growth is going to come for the brands that have that tone of, if this is the consumer you want to attract, maybe you have a clinic that you do attract, I don't live in an area where we have a cool downtown where all the cool young hip biohackers live. Like, we don't have that here. We have a bunch of farmers, and we don't have high rises. Like we're a big suburb. And so and we're usually the last to get trends. So when we market to people that we're a cool biohacking facility, that means nothing to our consumers. And so what we realize is you want to speak to them like, when you think cryo is cool and red light is cool, to other people it sounds crazy. So we speak to more the outcome. Like, we know you're under stress, we know you're trying to lose weight, and we know that diet and exercise alone is not cutting it for you. We are your experts to help you lose weight with ease. And just those kind of messages. Took me a long time to realize that, just because I thought everything was cool. I shouldn't scream from the rooftops, you should come get freezing cold, it's so awesome. Like, people are, what? Oh, why would I do that? So that's what I see coming, is wellness being seen as legitimate. I mean, we know it's legitimate, but the general market as a whole, that it's more respected, and just more of that integration of frequencies, stress, bringing grounding inside, bringing mindfulness to the wellness space on top of the cryo, the red light, those kind of things is kind of what I'm feeling is coming.
That's awesome. And we got a bunch of conferences this year. I think we're going to both be at. I'm excited to see. I also feel like there's this weird line of, like, the line between medical and wellness is getting blurrier, which is good. Like, I want that, because there's good stuff on both sides.
Exactly. And it's the truth, because that is, I mean, you can actually look up the GDP spending and all those things that actually is predicted to shift into wellness. I think Jim he was the Restore Hyper Wellness CEO, spoke to it last year at CryoCon. The wellness spend is going to 10x. Sick spend is going to stay the same or even go down a little bit over the next 10 years. So that also means the consumer will look at us in this space as professionals and experts, not just trendy, cool things, these weird habits, things that we do that are crazy. It's going to shift even more so.
Something I want to say that you just thought brought up, and I do want to wrap it up because being good on time, but guys, you're seeing this. We already saw this in semaglutide in the last year. These trends are going to start having real money behind them. Big corporations, big companies. And I don't want to sound negative. You can't compete with them at their game, but you can do what Lindsey is doing and take care of your people, connect with them. Like, I have a direct primary care doctor here locally. I pay him $75 a month, and he's like my guy. Like, he takes such good care of me and my wife. I would never go to a big company. And so know that the way you differentiate isn't by beating them in the marketing spend. It's not doing it. It's just taking care of your customer, because big money will never do that. So as these trends come through, don't be scared if a store opens up down the street. You can do better than them. And the best way to outmarket them is to take care of your people.
Absolutely.
All right. I always want to end this with 3 things. 1, what's the best book you've read recently?
Oh, Teamwork by Natalie Dawson.
I'll have to check that one out. And then, what is one thing you're doing really well and one thing that you're working on?
Doing really well is leaning into the things I don't enjoy, slowing down to speed up, which is like breaking down our KPIs, breaking down our profit margins in every single thing that we offer, increasing our pricing, which is my least favorite thing in the world to do, and we just did it. And that's probably one thing I didn't do well, was the way that we rolled out the change. I learned a lot of painful lessons. I think that's why I had to reschedule with you,
Yeah.
and why thank goodness we didn't do this last week, because but I learned a lot. And now we know next time we roll out a change what not to do.
Awesome. Well, hey, Lindsey, thank you so much for hopping on. And guys, if you want, you follow Lindsey on Instagram. It's just Lindsey Kirby with a K. And thanks for again coming on. And if you guys have any questions, drop in the comments. I'll make sure I reach out. We'll follow up later on, and I'll talk to y'all later.